42nd plus or minus. And at this time, I would like to bring up Matt. This speech is titled A Runner's High and a Runner's Low. Again, this is Matt. A runner's high and a runner's low.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guest. I understand that this is supposed to be a humorous speech contest. But unfortunately, what I have to say is not funny at all. Not even a little bit. This is actually really a story of sorrow and woe. This is serious shit, folks. Listen up for a second, okay? So, since this is a sad story, I brought some tissues for everybody. I ran out of the box kind, so I brought the rolled kind. I actually kind of like the way that it works better. You know, it just comes off a little easier. So, anybody in here ever been a runner or currently a runner? So, a lot of you have experienced the runner's high. For those of you that have not experienced a runner's high, it happens when you're in fairly decent shape, and typically, to me, it happens about 3 to 5 miles in. And it like this sense of euphoria. It just feels so good, like you can just run forever. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it really happens. Well, that happens, but also, so does a runner's low. Anybody ever experienced what they thought was a runner's low? I kind of doubt that anybody's experienced this kind of runner's low. So, quite a few years ago, I lived in St. George, Utah. And in St. George, the running community at all and the marathon community was kind of a big deal. And so I had these buddies, Rick and Dennis and Jeremy, that we would train for marathons and half marathons, and we did lots of races together, and we trained together, specifically for a race at a time. And during this particular race that we were training for, and our training meant we'd plan, hey, we're going to go for a 5-mile run, or we're going to go for an 8-mile run, or we're going to go for a 15-mile run, whatever. And we'd meet at my house or one of the other houses and take off together. Well, we were training for this marathon called the Deseret News Marathon in Salt Lake City. And for some reason, during the training of this particular marathon, I had a problem in which every time we went on a run longer than 3 or 4 miles, I had to run by a construction site. The reason that I had to run by a construction site, in a word, porta potties. We all love porta potties, right? We have that kind of love-hate relationship with porta potties. But so we would meet and we would start going, and I would have it all planned out. We would run by said porta potty, and I would, hey, fellas, I gotta go. And this wasn't a number one thing, because I'm a man. I can do number one on any tree or any bush. I got the number one thing handled. This is a number two thing. So I would jump into the porta potty, and before long, the heckling would begin. And oftentimes, if there was a rock handy, a rock would hit the porta potty, or they would all get on different sides of it and slam the porta potty, which is really loud and really uncomfortable. So, needless to say, I would leave that porta potty feeling sad and empty. So finally, the day of the marathon, or the weekend of the marathon, came. And we drove up to Salt Lake and waited around. The day of the marathon's always fun. You pick up your number, you go do the pre-race carbo load. And sometime during that day, I grabbed a Runner's World and I was flipping through it. And I saw this thing about a cleanse. A cleanse. I thought, oh my God, that's perfect. A cleanse. And it mentioned apple cider vinegar, but it mentioned a tablespoon. If a tablespoon's good, 3 tablespoons is way better. And if apple cider vinegar is good, hey, check it out. Bran is going to do some serious, it's going to really make this thing work a lot better. So I went to the grocery store and I bought my favorite kind of bran cereal, which my kids would call it cookie cereal. It was that good. Crackling oat bran. So I went and bought this thing and I just ate on it, grinded on it all day, and I ate most of the box. So finally, it was time to go to sleep. That's when movement number 1 happened. And I was like, oh my God, I figured out the Da Vinci Code for not having to stop stop at a porta potty during a race. This is awesome. I did it. Then in the morning, I woke up 4 o'clock in the morning because you got to get up to the starting line and stuff, and that's when movement number 2 happened. I wasn't as excited about movement number 2, really. I was kind of starting to be a little bit skeptical, but I got up to the starting line, and at the start of these races, everybody's jumping around and everybody's pumped up, and you feel the excitement, and that's when movement number 3 came around. I jumped into the porta potty, and I'm in there, and people are counting down. 30 seconds! 20 seconds! And then 10, 9, 8, and I ran out of the porta potty with 6 seconds left, and I got to mile number 1. That's where number 4. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you a secret. You got a lot more inside you than you think. 9 times on the marathon route. 9 times on the marathon route I stopped. It was so brutal. Literally, about mile 19 is where it stopped, where I was done. And hey, finally I'm done. That's not going to happen again today. And I ran really fast. I finished up literally crying. Literally in tears. I had trained to do a 3-hour and 30-minute marathon. Did 4 hours and 38 minutes instead. It was crushing. So there is a moral to the story. It's a pretty easy moral to the story. Never change your routine before a big event. I don't care what the big event is. It could be a job interview, it could be a speech, or it could be a big race. But the bottom line is you don't want to be sitting on the toilet when the starter's pistol fires. So, in closing, I hope that I've given you some decent advice. I hope you follow my lead and don't do that again. And I'm going to leave one of these with you. But I'm going to take the other one with me, just in case, because you just never know what's going to happen. Madam Toastmaster.